Welcome to the Beau Show. One quick note of business to those who are watching me on YouTube. My show is not shown in full, so make sure that you go watch on NTD or Epoch TV to see the full episodes. YouTube suppresses my reach, so I just want to let those of you watching know that. Well, all eyes have been on Capitol Hill this week for the confirmation hearing of Joe Biden's Supreme Court Justice nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson. She would be the first black woman to hold the highest jurist office in the land. Or would she? Or can I even say she? We will get to that later. Jackson is the nominee to replace the retired Stephen Breyer, a liberal member of the court. And Joe Biden limited his nominee choices to a person who was a woman and a person that is non-white. So if you were a very qualified white male or white female, you were automatically excluded from the pool. So if you think about it, in order to be inclusive in this way, he had to be exclusive. Remember that as we plot along the path of diversity, because it's not as inclusive as you may think. To become the 116th Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Biden said that he, quote, conducted a rigorous process to identify his replacement. President Biden sought a candidate with exceptional credentials, unimpeachable character, and unwavering dedication to the rule of law. And the president sought an individual who is committed to equal justice under the law and who understands the profound impact that the Supreme Court's decisions have on the lives of the American people, unquote. Now remember, he said that he conducted a rigorous process that, mind you, will only be selected among a pool of non-white women. The part about unwavering dedication to the rule of law is important because jurists are supposed to interpret the law, not create it, as the legislative body of Congress does. So what do we know about Judge Jackson? Well, she was born in D.C. and went to school in Miami. Her father attended law school, but when the White House website mentions that the young Ketanji was a speech and debate star at Palmetto Junior High, they make a point to say this, quote, but like many black women, Judge Jackson still faced naysayers. When Judge Jackson told her high school guidance counselor she wanted to attend Harvard, the guidance counselor warned that Judge Jackson should not set her, quote, sights so high. I've got to pause right here. I'm a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, otherwise known as a WASP. I attended private schools in Memphis, Tennessee. I wanted to attend Northwestern University, one of the top 10 schools in this country. And my guidance counselor was also a naysayer to me. He did not think that I would get in because my test scores were not like at the valedictorian level. So why does the White House mention that in spite of Jackson's peers voting her as mayor of the school and setting her sights on Harvard? Is there a need to mention that, quote, like many black women, Judge Jackson faced naysayers? I was a WASP in Tennessee and I had plenty of naysayers and I got in. But my high school college guidance counselor was the naysayer. So do I not get to have any naysayers too? But Judge Jackson beat the naysayers and graduated magna cum laude from Harvard. And I graduated magna cum laude from Northwestern. Great to be in such wonderful company. Even though it is possible that due to affirmative action, my demographic race may not have helped me out at all. I had to audition to get in. Judge Jackson clerked under the newly retired Justice Stephen Breyer, and it was President Obama who appointed Jackson as vice chair of the U.S. Sentencing Commission in 2009 with bipartisan support. So Judge Jackson was a former public defender who then sat as vice chair on a federal sentencing commission to decide what fair sentencing would be. Obama nominated her to be a district court judge in D.C., and then Biden appointed her to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit in 2021. So Judge Jackson has been handpicked by the Obama and Biden team for quite some time. I don't think anyone questions her pedigree or experience. That seems to be codified in visible experience. Another unique part of Judge Jackson's background is that she comes from a family full of law enforcement. Two uncles were officers, with one as a detective in sex crimes, and her brother served as an undercover officer in a drug sting unit in Baltimore. The Fraternal Order of Police has stated, quote, from our analysis of Judge Jackson's record and some of her cases, we believe she has considered the facts and applied the law consistently and fairly on a range of issues. There is little doubt that she has the temperament, intellect, legal experience, and family background to have earned this appointment. We are reassured that, should she be confirmed, she would approach her future cases with an open mind and treat issues related to law enforcement fairly and justly. We wish her well as the confirmation process begins, unquote. A number of U.S. attorneys' letter reads this, quote, many of us and our colleagues have interacted with Judge Jackson and have found her to possess incredible intellect, excellent legal ability, and a commitment to the highest ethical and professional standards throughout her career. She has promoted compassion, dignity, and respect for all parties, as she demonstrated by her 8 years on the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Judge Jackson is a fair and impartial jurist. She has authored more than 560 judicial decisions, adjudicating her fair share of complex legal questions in ways that have significantly advanced the legal profession and our understanding of principles enshrined in the Constitution. Her decisions are invariably well-reasoned and thoughtful, and she is singularly prepared to assume the role of appellate jurist, unquote. Okay, so these are all high praise for Judge Jackson, and I think it's only fair to honor the accolades and experience. But of course, we know that experience is not everything. A jurist's mind and bias often come into play. As impartial as one may try to be, there are certain circumstances in which that bias may seep through. For instance, biology is something that may be something that is presented to the Supreme Court, especially in cases of Title IX of U.S. Code. Here is Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn asking Judge Jackson a presumably easy question.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the law and I decide.
Well,
so I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
This honestly was a shock to me. Blackburn was not asking a trick question, but Jackson said that she could not provide an answer for that because she is not a biologist, which is interesting because she is somewhat defaulting to the fact that gender would be a biological determination. But when you think about, for instance, a lot of the transgender issues at stake working their way up in the court right now in athletics, especially with a number of male-turned-female athletes winning at the NCAA level, determining what a man and woman are would have a high bearing in Title IX cases. Ironically, major media outlets stepped up to buttress Judge Jackson's answer. Take a look at this USA Today headline. Marsha Blackburn asked Ketanji Brown Jackson to define woman. Science says there's no simple answer. Is that not unreal? Now, we can debate what makes a woman in terms of, let's say, femininity through a subjective lens, but we cannot debate what a female is. For that, science does have an answer. The USA Today article goes on to find and quote gender studies so-called experts who have made gender a fluid social construct, not a biological or scientific one. Former Olympian Eli Bremer, who helped Congress write the Olympic Committee reform bills in the wake of the Larry Nassar sex abuse scandal, said the following: despite being a woman, Joe Biden's pick for the Supreme Court could not define a woman because she is not a biologist. In a world where Leah Thomas, a biological male, is robbing biological female athletes of their titles and scholarships, how should any woman feel that their rights will be protected under Joe Biden's Supreme Court? Amongst other things, women have fought for the right to have equity in the workplace and protections through the creation of human resource divisions and have fought for Title IX. Defining a female in sport is the core issue of women's rights in sport, which have been federally protected by the federal government for the last 50 years. Then let's also look at the concept of race and how it applies. Here is Senator Ted Cruz asking a similar question.
Leftist sensibilities, if I decide right now that I'm a woman, then apparently I'm a woman. Does that mean that I would have Article III standing to challenge a gender-based restriction?
Senator, to the extent that you are asking me about who has the ability to bring lawsuits based on gender, those kinds of issues are working their way through the courts, and I'm not able to comment on them.
Okay, if I can change my gender, if I can be a woman, and then an hour later, if I decide I'm not a woman anymore, I guess I would lose Article III standing. Tell me, does that same principle apply to other protected characteristics? For example, I'm an Hispanic man. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
Senator, I'm not able to answer your question. You're asking me about hypotheticals and
well, I'm asking you how you would assess standing if I came in and said I have decided I identify as an Asian man.
I would assess standing the way I assess other legal issues, which is to listen to the arguments made by the parties, consider the relevant precedents, and the constitutional principles involved, and make a determination.
So you see, here Cruz makes the parallel from the gender argument to race, which is to say how a person feels or identifies may apply to Article III standing. Cruz's point is fair, especially in the Harvard discrimination case, where Judge Jackson may have to recuse herself. We know that Asians were discriminated against. So if a person as white as I am says, hey, I think I'm now Asian, so I can get in on this lawsuit, is that fair? Judge Jackson demurs on this topic of standing the same way she did with the gender argument. She says that these cases are making their way through the courts, and thus she punts the answer down the road. But up in the air, of course, is the notion of biological gender and race, and whether a person can simply change those things and then pursue legal standing.